Lagos Talks
91.3.
News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed worry over the unhealthy treatment of local governments by state executives in the country, charging them to allow local governments to function properly. The president noted that the corruption perpetrated by state executives through the local government will make it difficult for any meaningful development to take place. Relating a personal experience at a presidential party with participants of the Senior Executive Course 44 2022 of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPSS, the president stressed the need for leaders in the country to be selfless rather than engage in corrupt practices, which he noted hinders development at the grassroots.
The treatment of local governments. What they did, this is my personal experience. If the monies from the federal government to state government, say it's 100 million. Let's put it 100 million. 50 million will be sent to the chairman with a letter that he will sign that he received 100 million. The governor will pocket the balance and share it with whoever he wanted. And then the chairman of the local government will see how much he must pay in salaries to help goes to development. Money for the salaries will be given and the balance will put in his pocket. This was happening. This is Nigeria. It's a terrible thing. You cannot say the person who was doing that was not educated. The fundamental thing is personal integrity.
President Buhari also congratulated members of the Senior Executive Course 44 on the successful completion of their course, as he challenged them to go back to their various establishments to revitalize and reinvigorate leadership at their various levels. The federal government has announced that services along the Abuja-Kaduna rail corridor would resume on December 5. Fidet Okeria, Managing Director of Nigeria Railway Corporation, the NRC, said all was set for resumption of the services, but advised passengers wishing to utilize the service to commence updating of their mobile app as from December 5 to enable them to successfully book for the ride. The NRC boss said the services will commence with 2 train rides from Abuja to Kaduna and vice versa, and assured its passengers of the federal government's commitment to ensure safety of lives and properties on board its train at all times. Recall that the Minister of Transportation, Muazu Sambo, during the test run of the train on Sunday, directed that Nigerians without a NIN would not be allowed to board the train. The National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Monguno, retired, has warned state governors employing the use of thugs to prevent opposition from mounting campaign materials in their domains that security agencies will soon descend on them. Anchoring the ministerial briefing at the State House yesterday, he further warned that there will be no hiding place for the perpetrators when the law enforcement agencies take steps. The NSA, who was reacting to reports of state governors implementing policies which prevent the presence of opposition campaign materials in their states, blamed the action on what he termed inferiority complex. The INEC has urged security agencies to respond positively to the brazen attacks on its facilities by prosecuting the perpetrators. At the just concluded 2-day retreat for resident electoral commissioners held in Lagos, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu expressed worry that several facilities and election materials had been destroyed a few months to the elections and no one had been prosecuted.
We want to assure Nigerians for the materials lost, we will recover. But there is a limit as to how much we can recover if these attacks continue. So the Commission is going to work with the security agencies, with community and traditional rulers to ensure that the attacks on the Commission's facilities are responded to. The best solution for us is arrest and prosecution of perpetrators. But for what happened, the Commission is confident that we will recover.
He disclosed that the just concluded retreat focused on standard operating procedures on the collection of PVCs, guidelines to voters' distribution to polling units, framework for electoral logistics, and code of conduct for commission's members, officials, and staff. A federal high court in Akwa Ibom State has sentenced the governorship candidate of the Young Progressives Party (YPP), Basi Albert, to 42 years in prison for fraud. Delivering judgment on Thursday, the presiding judge, Agatha Okeke, found the senator guilty of the offences and sentenced him to the Ikot Ekpene Correctional Centre to serve his jail term. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, had in 2019 arraigned Albert on a 6-count charge of allegedly taking possession of 6 vehicles worth 204 million naira when he was finance commissioner in the state. He was said to have collected one of the vehicles from Jide Omokore, an associate of Diziani Alisin Madueke, a former minister of petroleum. Omokore reportedly had dealings with the state when he offered Basi the vehicle. The Labour Party in Ogun State has expelled the Director General of the party's Presidential Campaign Council, Doyin Okukbe, over alleged non-financial membership status, high-handedness and financial recklessness. Making this known on Thursday, December 1, the state chairman of the party, Michael Ashade, said Okukbe was expelled alongside 10 other members for allegedly breaching the party's constitution. Ashade explained that Okukbe failed to pay his membership dues since he joined the party 6 months ago and can no longer qualify to be a member of the party, hence it should cease to act as a DG of the Presidential Campaign Council. The campaign DG was also accused of mismanaging the funds approved for the Ogun Labour Party for mobilization of members for the Oyo State rally held last week in Ibadan. Over 2,000 landowners affected by the construction of the second Niger Bridge yesterday protested non-payment of compensation in Asaba, the Delta State capital. The landowners whose property fell within the right-of-way corridor leading to the second Niger Bridge phases 2A and 2B marched to the Ministry of Works and Housing at the Federal Secretariat Asaba to register their grievances. The protesters from Delta and Anambra State carried placards of different inscriptions which read, "Pay us our compensation for taking our land, compensation is our right, and Abacha loot must be used judiciously," among others. One of the leader of the protesters, Captain Samuel Akaraiwe, retired, called on President Muhammadu Buhari to, as a matter of urgency, look into the matter. The Lagos State government has said it will commence the issuance of international driver's permit effective from December 2022. The Director of Vehicle Inspection Service, the VIS, in the state, Engineer Akin George Fashola, explained that the issuance of the international certificates for vehicles and international driver's permits is in line with international requirements. Fashola also said private registered vehicles that are within 5 years from the date of manufacture shall be exempted from the mandatory computerized routine inspection carried out by the VIS, noting that the pre-registration inspections, the Autovin, would have recorded such vehicles for exemption, and all that would be required from the owners of such vehicles is to get exemption certificate from the VIS. The director also disclosed that the VIS has commenced clampdown on rickety commercial vehicles without proper documentation and safety standards. You're still listening to the World News. Moving on to the foreign scene, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing a possible impeachment threat over the Farmgate scandal. The president has been accused of covering up a $4 million theft from his farm in 2020, including kidnapping and bribing the burglars into silence. A 3-volume report from an independent panel has found that Mr. Ramaphosa abused his position and may have broken an anti-corruption law. He has denied wrongdoing and said the money was from selling buffalo. The panel's findings have been handed to Parliament, which is set to examine them and decide whether or not to launch impeachment proceedings next week. More than 1 million Kenyans have registered to a government loan scheme targeting the youth and informal traders just a day after its launch. The scheme, known as the Hustler Fund, was launched by President William Ruto on Wednesday and has already disbursed over 400 million shillings to borrowers. Borrowers are able to access the money by dialing a USSD code or using an application on their mobile phones. The fund was a key campaign promise by the president who came to power in September. And out to business news, the House of Representatives has approved payment of various sums totaling 308.458 billion naira to 194 companies who filed claims under the promissory note program of the federal government. This is based on the recommendation of the House Committee on Commerce on the approval of a promissory note program to settle outstanding claims in respect of the Export Expansion Grant 2007 to 2009, which the Chamber considered and adopted at the plenary on Wednesday. The 375 billion naira is the backlog of the EEG from 2017 to 2020, whose payment was delayed due to budgetary constraints by the federal government. The EEG is a grant provided to exporters to enable them to stay competitive in the global market. In sport news, Morocco has qualified for the round of 16 at the ongoing FIFA World Cup in Qatar for the first time since 1986 by defeating the already eliminated Canadians 2-1 on Thursday. Morocco becomes the second African team to go through after African champion Senegal made it through on Wednesday. With Croatia drawing with Belgium 0-0 in the other Group F game, Morocco finished first in the group and will face Spain in the second-place finishers in Group E, while Croatia will play Japan, who defeated Germany 2-1 in their final group game. Germany, Belgium and Costa Rica now join teams who have crashed out of the tournament. Belgium coach Roberto Martinez has promptly stepped down following his side's World Cup first-round exit, saying he had made the decision to end his 6-year tenure some time ago and would have left even if they had been crowned champions. Final round of group matches would take place today in Group G and H, with Cameroon taking on already qualified Brazil. Serbia plays Switzerland. Ghana face another taste of Uruguay, while South Korea face Portugal.
Lagos Talks
91.3.
News.